Hello everyone. So today I'm going to show you how you can make this kind of a mystical forest scene with this really scary wolf. It's very easy to make, so let's follow along and let's see how it's done. So to start off, you need a plain white canvas, and from the color palettes I will select this dark black kind of color, drag it and fill it in the area. Now on the same layer, what I will do is I will take this darker blue color. I will go to my airbrushing and go for the soft brush with around 60% opacity and around 40% size. And then I'm just gonna add in this kind of a bluer tone to it. It's quite subtle, but it's there. And then I'm gonna select in the next blue color, which is slightly lighter than this one, and I'm again going to add in this. So just leaving a hint of that dark black and that blue color down there. Then again I'm gonna go to my fourth color and once again fill it like this by leaving that subtle hint of the blue. I'm gonna go to adjustments, Gaussian blur, and blur this in to make it a gradient. And then I'm gonna make a new layer, and on this layer with my fifth color, with the same airbrushing soft brush, maybe a bit smaller on the size, like around 28 to 30%, and then I'm gonna add in this band of this lighter blue. And then once again I'm gonna go to adjustments, Gaussian blur, and blur it. Let's say it right around 40%. Okay, then on the same layer I'm gonna go with the next color, which is the sixth color. And then I'm just gonna add in a bit of a highlight here on the top, so I will maybe reduce the opacity to around 40%, and just like this, kind of graze in this curved highlight. Then with the next lighter color, we give it a bit more definition, once again leaving some of the previous color behind, and then we just go from darker to lighter and kind of give this overlay. And then finally with the white color, give it the final touch, and then once again we go to the adjustments, Gaussian blur, and we sort of blur this in. So that could be around 35%. Okay, so here's our basic gradient and canvas for our drawing. Then we can merge these two, and now we go to the smudge tool, and with the airbrushing medium hard brush, you can have the 100% opacity and around, let's say to start off, 3% size. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make some strokes from downwards to upwards, and it's gonna shape in form of our trees. We can reduce the size to around 2%, and just like here on the background trees, we're gonna just add in these. These are going to be like really minimalist details. These are gonna be covered anyways, so you don't have to really care about how much detail you're gonna put in them. Or we can go even smaller. And then with the bigger size, let's say around 4%, we're gonna add in some bigger trees. And then we slightly move towards the foreground, and as we move forward, we make sure we increase the brush size, but just to add a bit more detail to the ones here. Something like that. And we can always add in more details to our trees. So we can reduce the size of our smudge brush and just give it like some kind of these branches kind of structure. Don't worry about these shapes getting removed, like the color. We're gonna fix that as well. So now what we need to do is we can go to our airbrushing medium brush and maybe around, let's say 2% size, around 80% opacity. And then we are going to select the color of our tree, like tap and hold. It's gonna select a base color. And then we're just going to add in a bit of the details to fill them back in. Make sure you don't go too up with these, just fill in the basic shapes. Then here we have a basic structure of our forest. What we can do now is we can make a new layer, and we're gonna go to our brushes, your artistic and leatherwood brush. We're going to make some adjustments to this brush. So I am going to increase the spacing to around 40%. And then I'm gonna go to grain, and I will reduce the scale of the grain for now. And then what I'm gonna do is maybe set the opacity to around like really low, maybe 40%, or even lower, like 35%, and the size. So the size is going to vary from background to foreground. It's gonna go smaller to larger. So maybe we can select one of the trees here, like this tree trunk color, and just kind of start adding this crown to the tree. It's very subtle, but you can still see it there, like that. And we're not just gonna stick to only one color. We are going to add in a combination of darker and lighter colors to give it some more kind of a detail. But remember, as you're in the background, make sure to have lighter colors. Don't worry if you find it like too much at some places. You can always remove some of them. But in any case, we're gonna have them more indulged into our scene. Maybe on a much lighter color, we can get in more of these. And as we move forward, we're gonna again pick the color from our relevant tree and maybe increase the size to around 3%. And then you can again make a combination of lighter and darker, this kind of a foliage, just to give it some more ground. And make sure to connect them with your background trees. So just giving some rough strokes just to give it a more of this ground look, and go with even darker colors, maybe a bit smaller on the size. It's around 2%. It's always nice to have a color contrast. And then we can go back to the lighter color, reduce the size to like the lower part of 2%, and just drag in these back a bit, just to give it a surface, like something like that. It's very minimal, but it definitely adds up to the scene. And then we can increase the size a bit more, let's say around 3%. So like these darker foreground trees, and start adding the foliage to them as well. But don't worry, we're not just gonna stick towards the darker color. We are again gonna go with one of the lighter color here and add in those as well. And then we're just gonna keep on connecting it with the ground at the back. Okay, when you're happy with your ground, what you can do is you can go to adjustments, Gaussian blur, and maybe blur it to like somewhere around 4 or 5%. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, now I'm gonna make a new layer. Select this bright reddish orange kind of color. Go to my brushes, go to luminance and the light pen. So here we're just gonna add those mystical details to our pen. So what we can do is start with the very lower size of the brush and lower on opacity as well. So let's say around 50%. And then we're just gonna tap in some glow points starting from the back of our scene. Make sure to keep them lower towards the ground and not like higher up here, because they're just gonna be like these ground glows. So now as you gradually move forwards towards the foreground, you can increase the size a bit and the opacity as well to let's say around 70%, and then you can add in some more brighter of these glows. Again, it's a pressure sensitive brush, so the harder you press, the bigger a glow mark you can make. Just keep it very random. What I like to do is maybe increase the size of the pen more and more opacity, let's say 85%, and then add in these bigger glow dots. Something like that. And then what I'm gonna do is, on a new layer, go to my airbrushing, soft brush, then probably select this kind of orangish color and lower on the opacity, so let's say around 15%, and slightly bigger on the size, so maybe 20% or let's say 25%. And then just gonna dab in these points of glow, you know, just to give it a bit of an environment, just to kind of blend it in if you like it that way. But I would really want to go to my Gaussian blur and then kind of blur it in, so just to, you know, kind of settles down like that. So what extra thing I would like to add here is that you can always leave it like this, or what I would like to do is maybe I would go here and I can insert a silhouette. You can also draw in a character if you want, but I would really like to have a silhouette here. So maybe this kind of small wolf that's maybe standing, and we can go to the adjustments and reduce the brightness to make it more visible like that, and then I can go to my luminance, light pen, reduce the size to around 6%, maybe select a bit yellowish color and try to give it some eyes. Like that. Maybe this one a bit more bright. Like this. And just to go more extra, I can go back to my airbrushing. The soft brush, you can select this lighter yellow color and maybe lower on the size, right, say around 5%, very low on the opacity, around 4%. Just dab it in just to give that glow. So pretty much like it, but again, you see the shadow of the wolf is here, so we can always adjust that. We can make a new layer on top. We go back to our brushes, we can go to our artistic, the leatherwood brush. We can select one of this ground color here, reduce the size to around 2%, opacity to around 25%. We can just kind of try to blend it into the ground. You can always go with a darker color and maybe increase the opacity like that, and then you can go to adjustments, Gaussian blur, and slightly blur it in like that. Okay, so I will leave this drawing here. If you like this tutorial, please don't forget to subscribe my channel for more amazing artworks and tutorials. Thank you so much.